Welcome to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. These are casual chats with visiting artists. Creaky barn, bugs, and all. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Conversations from the Barn. I'm Bill Underwood. We're here with Chris Everett.
Hello.
And we are also here today with Sarah Krueger.
Hi.
Sarah's been on retreat. Today is Friday. It is perhaps the most spectacular day of the week. Mm-hmm. It is in a beautiful, beautiful day. We are at the east side of the barn with the doors wide open and a lovely breeze hitting us. So it's a perfect...
It's perfect.
It's a perfect time for a little chat with our friend Sarah.
Yeah.
How's your week?
It's been beautiful. So great. Yeah, really, really great.
You have experienced a full gamut of weather.
True.
You've seen some intense heat. You've
Yes.
seen some crazy storms. You've seen a lot of rain.
Yeah.
And beautiful days. So you've got to see all the warts and the beauty of Everwood.
Yeah, I was hoping for some dynamics while I was here. You know, and anything but maybe the winter blizzard. I was hoping for.
So, I'm grateful we didn't get that.
Yeah, right.
How has it affected your songwriting?
I honestly, one thing that I really have loved about being here this week, I grew up in Wisconsin and I now live in Duluth, Minnesota. And even though those two places aren't very far apart, they feel very different in terms of weather. And since we're on the topic of this week's weather, like, it felt like my childhood, you know. I felt like the storms and the heat, the super strong heat was like kind of unlocking different memories from my childhood. So I feel like some of my songwriting was like kind of coming out as this like nostalgic, maybe kind of big picture nostalgic. And I wasn't holding back from that. It was kind of like, wow, I think I just wrote like a country love song today. You know, like I think that my surroundings do affect me so much, even in terms of weather, that one thing I learned, I was just like, yeah, like lean into whatever songs come out of that feeling of being in a certain place and having a strong sense of place, you know?
Some may not know, but you perform under the name Lanue.
Yeah.
So, and for those who haven't heard your music, talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
Well, I feel like my songs are pretty standard, like folk Americana songs usually, but my records tend to sound like a little more lush. Like they're very, I think, have a very strong sense of place in terms of having like a full, rich, kind of lush sound. There's pedal steel, there's synth sometimes, you know, lots of guitars and keyboards and really just kind of behind those like traditional folk songs with a you know, traditional song structure. I like to have sort of this like swell of sound that makes people feel like they're in a certain place that feels warm and inviting, and sometimes sad and sometimes happy, sometimes confused and wandering, I guess. I don't know.
Duluth has a pretty amazing music scene.
Yeah.
Charlie Parr. Mm-hmm. Trampled by Turtles.
Yeah.
Lanue.
Yeah.
What, for those who don't go to Duluth that often, like, if you were to direct them to, like, the best place to watch live music in Duluth, where would you say?
There's a couple places that have been memorable for me to both see and hear and attend shows and play that I love. There's a historic theater called the North Shore Theater. It's beautiful. Sounds beautiful. It's right downtown on Superior Street. And for a long time, it was closed to the public. And before that, it was owned by a man, and it was a strip club. And so there's like all sorts of strange history. But the room itself, they finally revitalized it. It's a really beautiful space to see shows. And then I also really love, I mean, to be honest, I love outdoor shows. The Bayfront Festival Park is beautiful. You can watch the ships pass under the bridge and go through the harbor, and it just feels special. It feels very Duluth, you know. And then there's an old mansion called the Glen Sheen Mansion that's also on the shores of Lake Superior, and they host a summer concert series, and it's the most unique place to see a show. Like, I wouldn't say you can tune in and really listen, but just the experience of people kayaking, swimming, boating up to this big pier, and, you know, pretty much on land, on water. You can come however you want and catch a Duluth band play. It just feels like a unique experience to Duluth.
And you're outdoor for that one as well.
Yeah, and that one's outside. Mm-hmm.
Have you been able to play much in front of a live audience?
Yeah, you know, I put this first Lanue record out March of 2021. Whenever the pandemic was in full swing, I couldn't play a release show, all I know. But I was able to start playing live outside that summer and fall. And yeah, I've been able to play with my band. Sometimes I'll play solo. Sometimes I'll do like a small ensemble. And I'll play around, of course, Duluth, but also the cities and Eau Claire. And
That's when we first learned about you, was the release of that album.
oh yeah, thanks.
And the video, I'm terrible with remembering song titles. I don't know but the video with In the Water.
Oh yeah, What I Love the Most is
Yeah.
that song. Yeah,
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Such a
thank
beautiful
you.
video. Who did that for you?
that was Zoe Prine's Flash, and then Lauren Josephine edited it.
Yeah.
And
Were you happy with it? Because I mean, it's stunning.
Yeah, I was happy with it, and I kind of gave like a little mood board to Zoe, and it was during COVID times. We had to stay apart. I couldn't, have a group of people, and so I was kind of like, it's just gonna be me and the places I love, which are the lake and my garden, and we're gonna just try and make it feel like, like me, like Lanue. Like I wanted it to be just on par with that record in terms of the sense of place, because a lot of those songs come from the lake, the garden, like my day-to-day life. And I think she did a really great job capturing that feel. So
It was joy in the middle of a dark time.
yeah, thanks. Oh, that's nice to hear. Yeah, that was one of the first videos. She's a wonderful photographer, but she was like, I'm up for the challenge of doing some video work, and she did a great job.
Cool.
So yeah.
You seem to really resonate and be inspired by nature.
Yeah.
What's your orientation to nature?
I spend a lot of time outside, honestly. I spend a lot of time outside in the winter and in the fall. I'm in all the seasons. But I feel like when I am in the woods or at the lake, I sort of have just a sense of peace that I think is really important to both my creative process and my identity as a human. Like it's what makes me feel at peace, is being, as I say, out in nature.
Yeah.
And I'm not like a super like enthusiastic outdoor like sportsman, hysterical recreator or anything. It's just like part of my day is built around going outside and being in the woods, being in quiet and solitude. And so Duluth is a lovely place for that.
Yeah, it is.
It's a beautiful part of the world.
It really is. It's special. And I think what I love about it is kind of a secret. So, I live on the very western part of the city, and I don't see anybody on the trails or in the woods, and it's in the city, and that feels precious to me, to be able to have solitude in nature that's just right outside my door, that I don't have to drive a car to experience, so.
Speaking of your creative process, we talked a little bit about it last night.
Mm-hmm.
You treated us to the most amazing dinner,
Aww.
and we chatted about your process. And I think you shared a little bit about how you shook things up a bit with your process this week.
Yeah,
Say
I
more
did.
about that.
Yeah, I wanted to really lock in like my technical and just Yeah, more so my technical aspects of songwriting and demoing out songs so that I finish them and I don't just have a bunch of pieces scattered all over the place that don't get finished. And I'm sure a lot of artists struggle with this. But what's been beautiful for me this week is like getting equipment set up and dial in so that I have like I can focus my energy into one thing rather than just bopping around from instrument to instrument and getting a bunch of ideas but not following through with turning them into a finished, I don't want to say product because that sounds kind of icky, but
yeah.
like a finished experience, something solidified. And yeah, so that's what I've been really thinking about this week. How can I take my process of songwriting, both the inspiration aspect and the like physical, songwriting, and how can I carry that home with me so that I can have a practice at home that I've really fine-tuned here. And so that's been great. I'm really looking forward. I'm visualizing like my home, because that's where I work. I work from my house.
Right.
There's a lot of distractions.
And do you think about it? I know you were telling us last night you would move from this part of the retreat house to this room out to the barn. Like, are you visualizing that in your own space now back at home?
I am, because it's almost like I was working in stages where I would say to myself, like, I have to get this much done of this song before I can, like, feel like, okay, now I'm going to move on to the piano in the barn and try and perform it, because that helps me just, like, visualize the full picture, right? And so if I can have like a benchmark for myself, it helps me move on to then what feels like the next stage. And that next stage is where I would always just start something different at home. And so when I'm picturing that at home of being like, okay, I'm going to get to this percentage of a song being what feels like finished, and then get set up as if I'm performing a show or in the studio and play that song through and feel and decide, does this feel like my vision? Does it feel like it's even a lot? I mean, sometimes you'll get done with a song, what you think is done, and you'll play it or play through it to yourself, and it's kind of like, this doesn't feel like me, and the whole thing.
Scrap it all.
Yeah, and that's okay too. That's part of the process. But I want to be really mindful of getting across that finish line for myself. And yeah, so that's been really lovely this week.
Is that hard to do alone? Do you have collaborators or a writing group or someone that you share at a certain point?
I don't share with anybody until I get to the studio, in which I have, my band or collection of other musicians that help me flesh out the actual recording. And so that's fun. Like, I don't even send demos to the people I work with in the studio. I said nothing. We just get there, and I really want the experience to feel like it's unfolding in real time. And so it's like, here, this is this song. And the song could end up being whatever. It can change. Sometimes I'll end up chopping it up and rewriting certain parts. But I really I really love the studio experience to be like sort of this raw and in the moment experience. To me, that just feels more sincere and more fun. And I think everyone that I work with enjoys that. Like, they don't feel stressed out by it, or they'd prefer to not hear a demo. It's like, we just want to let this unfold how it will unfold in the moment.
That's fascinating to me. We've heard from so many people because of the cost of being in studio and the people and the time that they feel like they've got to show up so buttoned up and so hyper prepared. And you're bringing a freshness and a spontaneity to it that's kind of unique from what we've heard.
Yeah, and I think that feels refreshing to the people I work with too, because I mean, honestly, when I think about making that first Lanue record, the hours in the morning would be spent just like catching up and talking. It's like that's part of our day. It helps me get everyone at a place where they feel comfortable and at their most like authentic creative selves. When I don't say like, all right, chop, 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 we need to finish this. Yeah, like I don't have a lot of money and finances are like something that comes easy for me to make records. But the most important thing to me is like everyone feeling at their most comfortable creative selves. And I think things just gel. Like, and you're not fighting this resistance of like everyone trying to fit everything in time. Because I think that can be not productive. And you end up with something that doesn't feel genuine.
I'm curious, in the songs that you're writing in these days, are you intentional, or are you discovering a narrative? Is there a through line in your music right now?
I find myself writing a lot and thinking a lot about the environmental catastrophes we might find ourselves in. And it sounds so grim, and it's just something that I think about a lot. And I think the care for our world is something that it crosses my mind on a daily basis, and it finds its way into my songs. Sometimes I'll fight against that. I'll be like, okay, these last 3 songs I'll have like similar threads, It's like, okay, what else am I thinking about? I'm one thing that I realize is like sometimes lately my songs have been like this big zoom out, right? And so I've been thinking this week about how can I zoom in? How can I zoom in on one small beautiful thing and write a song about that, rather than this like overarching zoomed out picture of the world or an idea or a concept that's been on my mind.
Which actually leads where I was headed. Like, is there a moment, a vision, a sound, a smell this week that you zoomed in on for inspiration?
Yeah, let me think about what I've written.
Might there be some inspiration from thousands of fireflies last night?
Well, I actually, so the experience of the fireflies in the field last night is definitely working its way into a song. It hasn't yet, but I have written lines, right? And again, thinking about how I can zoom in on that and how it can also be a metaphor for something else. So sometimes a vision like that, thousands of fireflies in the field, I've not seen or felt the electricity from that many fireflies before in my life. And so certainly a visual experience like that will like work its way into my little notes and jots of writing, but it hasn't become a song yet. But I think that,
only to find its way into a song maybe 2 years from now.
I mean, and sometimes that does happen for me. Like I'll have notebooks and I'll find a line that I had maybe written 3 years earlier, and it'll take me back to that memory, and I'll end up working it into a song. Definitely thunderstorms, rain. Today I had a line that I'm working into a song about, like singing with my face into the sun, and that felt so good to me today, like sitting on the porch and just singing with my face in the hot sun. Yeah, I'm very moved by the dynamics of weather in this week that I've experienced.
There's lots of inspiration this week.
I know. Well, and the flowers and the animals and the birds.
From a zoom in, zoom out perspective, last night we were standing there with the dark. There was no moon, so there was the extraordinary stars, and then there were all the fireflies, and it kind of felt like a mirror, one of the other, almost like
Yeah, I remember
the stars reflected in water or something.
Yes, like you couldn't really tell where the stars ended and the fireflies started. There was just like this like not a grace period, but like a melding of the two. It was very special.
Like a macro, micro, something.
Sure. I've also been thinking a lot about like this idea of multitudes in ourselves and in like maybe these parallel universes that we also are living in. And the concepts of like time and space-time in general, and how our brains don't know how to comprehend those ideas. I was speaking with a friend today who had traumatically lost a partner a couple weeks ago, and it dawned on me that I had been thinking about this a lot, and I said to her, I think you had like a parallel life with this person where you spent your life together. And she said that's the only thing that's like made sense to me that anyone has said since losing him. And that kind of like it came together. My thoughts that I've had about this week and weeks leading up to this like came together in that conversation in a way that was meaningful to both myself and to her. And that it was lovely, right? It's a hard and terrible thing sometimes to be a human, and it's a really beautiful and incredible thing to be a human and experience it all. So it's precious.
We have a tradition in ending our podcast with the same question, and so we'll ask you tonight: how have you experienced beauty today?
How have I experienced beauty today? There's a lot of ways. I think one thing that felt really precious today was I lost a friend last night, and just having this realization that the people in your life all have people come and go, and they move effortlessly between years and days and your thought space. And when we can all just like at the end of your life, it's almost like this pinnacle of all these people and their energy and your memories and their memories like coming to a point and meeting in a similar place. And that felt really beautiful to me, to like connect with these people in my life that have been in my life for a really long time, in maybe like passive ways that I didn't think much about, and realize that we all like shared something special. Even though it was someone's life ending, it was the way that this one person touched our life, each individually. And I know that that's not directly related to Everwood, but I think that, being in this, like, a lot of solitude this week and, like, being by myself a lot, it was nice to think back and, like, have this moment of beauty about people and our lives together on this earth. And so, yeah.
You received that news in this moment at this place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. When I was, by myself and not close physically to these people.
Yeah. Sorry for your loss.
Yeah, no, thanks. I know. It's hard, but yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For taking time to chat.
Oh, it's been lovely. I appreciate it so much.
Looking forward to the day when sounds of Lanue come off that stage and into this barn.
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait. It'll be beautiful.
Cheers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
We've
both.
enjoyed having you here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Conversations from the Barn at Everwood Farmstead. Our theme music is provided by John Mark Nelson. Wishing you all good health.